Assalamualaikum and hi to our respectful lecturer. Today, our group will present about our research proposal entitled Community Based of Tourism in Langkawi Island. So, this is the introduction of all the chapters. In chapter 1, the researchers will discuss about background of the study, problem statement, research objectives, research questions, significance of study, definition of terms, and closed by the summary of this chapter. In chapter 2, the researchers will discuss about the tourism development and social impact, local communities and their perception towards tourism, and the social impact variable on the ethical problem, lifestyle and culture, literature review, hypothesis, conceptual framework, which is the relationship between the independent variable with dependent variable, and closed by the summary of this chapter. In chapter 3, the researchers will discuss about the research design that being used to carry out this study, target population, sample size, sampling method, data collections, research instrument, data analysis, and closed by the summary of this chapter.
In Malaysia, the tourism sector is the second largest sector after the sector manufacture. Community-based of tourism is one of the new concepts in the tourism industry in the country. So, this community-based of tourism enterprise, especially in rural areas, can help revitalize domestic economic activities. Malaysia can help revitalize domestic economic activities by supporting this community-based of tourism enterprise.
Problem statement. Langkawi Island was declared by the federal government as a free duty island. Inappropriate tourism development can lead to adverse environmental and social impact on island, including exposing locals to behavior that may clash with the island culture or traditional community values, as well as pollution, ecological damage, haphazard development, economic inflation, and in specific cases like prostitution and drugs trafficking. Social aspect with respect to the impact received by the local community and on development of the tourism industry. Tourism activities have changed their way of life. This change is possible due to change in customary practice as well as fading culture, especially to teenagers nowadays. Tourism industry has also led to increase in volume population. Population growth will not result in much property getting worse.
For the research objective, number 1 is to study the relationship between the tourism development and social impact on island. Second one is to determine the relationship between local communities and their perception towards tourism. And then to identify the relationship between social impact variable on the ethical problem, lifestyle, and culture. For the research question, the first one is what is the relationship between social impact happen on local community toward tourism development? The second one is what is the relationship between local communities and their perception towards tourism? And the third one is what is the relationship between social impact variable on the ethical problem, lifestyle, and culture?
We discuss about the tourism development and social impacts, local community and their perception towards tourism, and the social impact variable on the ethical problem, lifestyle and culture, literature review, hypothesis, conceptual framework, which is the relationship between the independent variable with dependent variable, and closed by summary of this chapter. Firstly, tourism development. Tourism is not only on source of income and employment, but it also serves a major factor in the balance of payments for many countries, and has therefore gained increasing attention on the part of government as well as regional and local authority business investor and other with an interest in economic development. Tourism development with growth call for an increase in education and training of the local people in this field, enhancing professionalism and providing many job opportunities. Tourism impact an economy through tourist expenditure on different goods and services. Jobs generated by tourism are spread across the economy in retail, construction, manufacturing, and telecommunication, as well as directly in tourism companies. Tourism can also be one of the most effective drivers for development of regional economies, and these patterns may apply to both developed and emerging economies. Next, perception towards tourism. Visitors' expectation and reaction are increasingly seen as important because these primarily affect tourist cognition, satisfaction, and emotional reaction to a specific tourist venue. Destination unique tourism characteristic too can be the most important variable for destination competitiveness and therefore emphasize on developing destination brand image. Integration of the effect of the previously determined impact that demonstrated a clear shift from mass tourism to sustainable tourism in the form of ecotourism, heritage tourism, and community tourism. Cultural tourism has received greater research attention recently. This form tourism has been found to offer to vital source of employment, raise standards of living, dependence on limited traditional industry, further socio-cultural opportunities, and support environmental conservation. Lastly, ethical problem, lifestyle and culture. The rapid expansion of tourism in the latter half of the 20th century is important because within individual destination areas of countries, its development has led to change the structure of society. Social impacts involve the more immediate change in the social structure of the community, adjustments to the destination, economy and industry, while the cultural impacts focus on longer term change in society norms and standards which gradually emerge in a community social relationships and artifacts.
Next, conceptual framework. The figure below is the framework that been used to study the relationship between independent variable and dependent variable of this research.
For the hypothesis, the literature review revealed that the independent variables like tourism development, perception towards tourism, and ethical problem, lifestyle, and culture affect social impact in Langkawi Island. Therefore, the study planned to examine the social impact among these variables. Based on the literature review that had been discussed in the research question, the hypothesis of this study summarized in the following manner. The first hypothesis is there is significant relationship between tourism development with social impact in Langkawi Island. Second one is there is significant relationship between perception towards tourism with social impact in Langkawi Island. And the last one is there is significant relationship between ethical problem, lifestyle and culture with social impact in Langkawi Island.
My name is Nuratika binti Abdullah and I will continue the slides. Next is research design. Research design is a framework of research methods and techniques chosen by a researcher. The design helps researchers to develop their research method which are appropriate for the subject matter and to create their studies for success. The choice to be taken on the analysis methodology when it defines how appropriate knowledge can be gathered for a report is a very critical decision in the research design process. The qualitative research design uses case studies to investigate the significance and interpretation of dynamic contexts, such as the instance of human experience. On the other hand, quantitative analysis designs use numbers and figures to clarify and interpret the relationship between the indicator and its findings. There are four types of quantitative research design, which is descriptive, correlational, experimental, and quasi-experimental. This analysis is focused on the quantitative nature of descriptive research. The descriptive study describes something that could be a phenomenon, a current situation or features of a group of organizations, individuals, and others. Quantitative will be used in this research. Next is target population. Populations refer to the whole population of individuals, incidents, or items of concern to be studied by a researcher. The population for this research are local communities of people in Langkawi Island. Researchers choose Langkawi Island because it is become one of the main tourist attractions. Therefore, researchers want to study about the social impacts among communities-based tourism. Next slide is sample size. Sample size is the subset of population. Sample size is to determining the number of subjects used in a sample size used in a market analysis. By sample size, a collection of participants chosen from the general population and assumed to be representative of the actual population for a particular survey.
I want to continue this slide. Sampling method. Sampling method is the procedure of choosing an adequate amount of variable from the population. There have two types of sampling method, which are probability sampling and non-probability sampling. Probability sampling method is every element in the population as equal chance of being selected as a sample. Non-probability sampling method is used when not all elements have the equal chance of being included in a sample. On this study, researchers choose probability sampling to use in this study. The probability sampling, which are sample random sampling. Next is research instrument. Research instruments are measurement tools such as questionnaire, test, or scale that's designed to help researchers obtain data on the topic of importance from research subject. Questionnaire is a method of data collection that involves the respondent to answer that question directly or by written. The questionnaire is separated into three sections. The first section is section A. Question on section A is about the respondent demographic information, such as gender, age, and status. And in section B, the question consists relate with the independent variable, while in the section C, the question consists relate with the dependent variable. The structure of the questionnaire is section A using nominal and interval scale, while in section B and C using Likert scale. Likert scale are 5 Likert scale being used in this study. The data will distribute the questionnaire amount of social impact about community based on tourism in Langkawi Island. The questionnaire will be distributed via online.
In data analysis, it modifying and transforming data to extract useful information from it. It might become in primary data and secondary data. Primary data is to be originally collected by a researcher for a specific research purpose or project from first-hand sources using methods like survey, interview, and experiment. Secondary data, the data collection is simply a compilation from the available published sources. Next is summarization and categorization together contribute to becoming the second known method used for data reduction. It also can help in finding patterns and themes in the data for easy identification and linking. For conclusion, community-based of tourism is present in many different geographical areas of the world, in particular in developing countries. So, this is created as a different way as an alternative to modern tourism, and this creates the creation of certain destinations that facilitate the generation of the community, and also the creation of many things that can further develop the community.